Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I already did an unboxing of the Adventures of Robin Hood, and I'll let you guys decide if you want to see basically a somewhat spoilery kind of gameplay video or not. It seems that 2/3 of the votes really didn't care too much about some mild spoilers, and thanks so much for all your votes out there. Really do appreciate that a lot actually. But I also got some very interesting comments which said, why don't you do both? The solo mode, which is really less spoiler because you are not touching the story of the adventure book here, and then another video with, again, going through the early stages of the game here, for example. And I like the idea as well. The problem is, due to some very personal reasons, I wasn't really able to play the Adventures of Robin Hood enough to prepare me for the solo experience. I played it now already, but I think the solo rules really recommend you to play or have played at least episode 4 in the book, or chapter 4 in the book, which I didn't do so far, which is why I'm going with a spoilery episode here first. So yeah, there will be some mild spoilers, so be aware, don't watch it if you don't want to see any of the story unfold ahead of time, that is. And then maybe a week later or so, I'm pretty sure the next coming week, we have the Easter weekend and whatnot, we should be really able to get through the campaign book here much quicker. At least that's what I hope. So if you're fine with me then, or if you want to see what the story has to offer, and again, I will really try to keep it to a minimum still. I will not show you all the tweaks, and maybe I will also cut it somewhat short, where I say I will only do, I don't know, the first 2 days, for example, which show you still the core mechanics, but will not show you too much of the actual story of the twists, and then going into a more, let's say, extended video where I will maybe then really continue my playthrough here and ending the first chapter. For example, could be something to consider, and I will keep going. If you don't want to see it, stop watching here and wait for the solo episode, or check out my unboxing video. And if not, then yeah, let's join me in my Adventures of Robin Hood. Okay, and here you are looking at the, let's say, starting configuration of the very first game of the campaign, or the storybook of the Adventures of Robin Hood. I decided to play with 3 characters. In this very first scenario, you have to play with Robin Hood and Little John, or John Little. And I decided to also bring Maid Marian into the game, but you could also opt to play with Will Scarlet. But again, the very first game, you really have to play with either Robin Hood and Little John. And then the more players you have, up to 4, you can then add Maid Marian or Will Scarlet, a little bit up to you. The stories are somewhat different, not so much in the early game. Later on, yes, definitely. But in this case, let's go with our 3 merry heroes here. And I really hope I haven't forgotten to flip over some of those tokens here. Again, they're all in this recessed kind of board. So this is a double layered board, and then you pick them out. So like this guy here, for example, you then turn it over. For example, sometimes something is printed on the bottom of the board, but in this case, I really do hope I haven't forgotten anything. Yes, I do see something, and wow, I went through this so many times actually, and still find something which I have forgotten to flip. Again, for most of the things, it's really not that big of a deal, especially those with a question mark here. Those are the ones that you typically explore, not in every chapter, but relatively often. And really, depending on the chapter you're currently playing, the result will be something different anyway. So even that you may see something like here, in episode 2, it might be something completely different already. With that being said, I guess we should be good to go. So let's have a quick read, and I did do some translation in advance, just to try keeping my stuttering to a minimum here. England in the year of our Lord 1193, the guard pushed Little John forward. The chain with which he had been bound rubbed against his wrists. Through the hood, he made out the ever-approaching silhouette of the gallows. I have not translated all those little instructions here. That is something that I explained to you. So right now the book tells me, okay, we have now to turn over some of the tiles on the game board. And here they refer to number 1, which is in the courtyard. That's the guard. So let's quickly do that. So here we have our first guard appearing. And this is the guard. And now we are taking one of Little John's little standees or little meeples on that, which means when you lay one of our heroes on top of one of those guard tokens here, or guard tiles here, this means they have been captured. So right now it also means that I'm typically not allowed to move away, but I'm still able to attack that guard, for example, to free myself. And this is something that I will do relatively soon. His heartbeat was racing and his thoughts were spinning. Is this the end? Is this the just punishment for all my deeds? Or is there still a way to escape? Now we have been told that we have to flip some more of those tiles here, for example the beggar here, and we will see the wagon, which will not be in place, and we will also do hide some of the traders, so they should not be told. And we also learn where our other heroes will start this scenario. So Robin Hood will put one of his standees on the oval plate of 11 up left in the forest, and Maid Marian, if she is in the game, will do that somewhere in the south western part of the game. And then we are also being told to place the action disc of our heroes that are playing this game into the cloth bag here. And this will be the chit pill mechanism we are going to deal with. And then we are already pretty much good to go, actually. Because a given game round is really a very straightforward thing. One player draws out those discs from the back, and depending on which color we are drawing, we know what's going to activate. If it's the color of one of our heroes, we will give that hero the ability to activate. If it's the red one, something terrible typically happens, and I think that's what we are going to do now. And then we should be good to go. So here we have John Little, here we have Maid Marian, here we have Robin Hood, and they are starting to get activated. And we are now drawing our very first disc here, and then we will tell who is going to get activated, and then we are doing some reading again. The good thing about this game is it comes with the right, let's say, dosage of text. I know that's maybe only me, but when I play with, I don't know, 2 or 3 other people at the same time, I don't really fancy the idea that someone is reading all the time. Because for me, that really breaks the immersion. This game really has the right balance between actual gameplay, so that you really do stuff and discuss your turns and whatnot, and also with the theme. I really think that that's well balanced in this game. Okay, let's see who goes first or what goes first. And here we have Robin Hood. You breathe the wet, cold forest air of the Sherwood. It's been years since you were last here, before the Crusades. Since then you have been plagued by confused dreams of suffering and fire and a horned figure. It's as if she's calling you now. And now we are getting our first task as Robin Hood. And the task tells us to go to this figure here, basically to the right of Robin Hood. We will most likely not make it in our very first turn, but that's our next action. And then we have also been told then we will draw the next disc from the back. The way how movement works now in this game, you don't see any pre-printed spaces here. No, this is now like a tabletop game. This is where those cool looking figures are coming in. We have 3 of those movement figures. We have 2 shorter ones, and we have 1 of those longer ones here, which allows us to move through the Sherwood Forest or to move through the castle in between the village of Nottingham, for example. Obviously, we are not allowed to move straight through the trees here. We cannot move through water, through buildings, through other persons. So you really have to stick to those pathways here. You will also notice that we will see shadowed areas, and we will see, let's say, or areas that are in the sunlight. As long as we are moving in the shadows, we are safe from any guards that might appear and will appear relatively soon. But yeah, if we are standing here in the clearing in the bright sunlight, we will be seen. If one of the guards, here could be one of the guards, for example, will see us and gets also activated, and then we are also automatically getting captured. And that's one of the things where you have to also think about how fast you're going to move. Do I really need to there? So for example, I could really decide, I want to play it safe and only want to move here into this area here, because this allows me to stay in the shadows. So let's say this guard shows up and will activate then later on. We will be captured, and that's typically a bad thing, because then you're not allowed to move. For example, on the other way, maybe I want to move as quickly as possible here to our whatever friends from the woods here, to understand, hey, what's going on. The good thing about this is if we are moving more slowly, we are also allowed to place a white cube into the back, and that's definitely something which is then the randomizer of this game. So we are not rolling any dice here. We are pulling cubes out of this disc. So they are white and purple cubes. Purple is a miss and a white one is a success. So if we are moving slowly, we are taking our time, we are taking some breath, and then we are allowed to or focus, and we will allowed to put one of those success cubes into that. Right now there aren't any cubes in there. Typically let's say the scenarios further down the line will usually start with some preceded backs here in respect to the odds, and they're not in your favor, believe me. So I guess in this case, because I'm pretty sure we will make it then with our next turn into that, and as we are not doing this anyway, I think we will move a little bit more carefully and slowly, which now means we will be allowed to place our first cube into the bag. Right now it's the one and only cube, and there also the disc is. We are putting everything, every component into this bag. Cubes, later on you have some tokens, some tokens which are more or less event cards kind of thing, and also those activation discs here. So I guess that's okay. We will end our turn here. So we are putting all the other stuff away. We optimized our chances somewhat. We are standing here in the shadow, so if someone shows up, we will not be caught. I think overall that's not a bad turn. And then the book tells us to draw simply the next next disc from the back. And overall, I talked way too much. This game is really, really refreshingly easy to play. Later on, yeah, there will be some more additional rules, obviously, but really the core game is so easy. So let's simply draw the next cube. Oh wow, and that's the red disc, so something nasty is about to happen. The Sheriff of Nottingham lets his eyes wander over the landscape. Early in the morning, he has sent out a few guards for safety, because today is a special day. Now we are basically being told to flip over some of the oval tiles here, number 6 and number 12, which typically means that some guards will show up. So here we have enough guards, so that's number 6, and then we are doing number 12, which is over here in the forest, north of Robin Hood. And by the way, on the back side of the board there is this nice little overview which tells you where are the traders, or traders, I guess, merchants, and where are the guards. So you will be able to spot those guards relatively easily throughout the game. Next, we are being told to place one of the purple cubes into the back as well. So right now we are at a 50% chance to make it through the next test. Let's put it like this. And then we are being told any player is now drawing the next disc from the bag. And this box down here tells you when there are no more discs in the bag, the first round ends, and then we will continue reading on page 12. The good thing is we know there's nothing terrible in the bag anymore, so we will continue with our heroes, and in this case it's Maid Marian who goes next. Finally, you are back in Nottingham. Hopefully in time, because a few days ago you received bad news. Your father was guilty of heresy, they said. A terrible mistake, there is no doubt for you, but of course you want to know more about it. Okay, she now also gets her own little task here, which tells her to move towards the women in the forest, 130, and then we are drawing the next disc from the back. But just to show you where everything is, so Maid Marian is now supposed to move down here to this maid here. She can do basically the same decision in this case. She could also say, I'm not going to make it here. There are no question marks along the way which I could explore. So let's say maybe something would be here or something would be here. She might have been able to look at that, but right now, again, you can only ever discover those individual spaces here. And yeah, I think maybe we are doing exactly the same thing. Or should we try to move fast? Yeah, I think we will not make it anyway, but I'm also not sure why. For what should I wait? Right now there are no guards down here. No, I think Maid Marian, she's really afraid. She wants to know what's going on with her father, so I think she will definitely move as quickly as possible. And I think she will still be able to make it into the shadow areas. But I think, yeah, she will definitely move fast and not to place any more white cubes. Again, if we are not using, or if one player doesn't use their longish distance marker here, we are automatically allowed to place one white cube into the bag. And right now it's a 50-50% chance, so there's a purple and a white cube in there. But again, that's really not a problem because we are typically drawing more than enough cubes for a given test. Okay, this second figure is removed. And that's also already the end of her turn, because again, this is not a question mark, but typically we will learn that during the next day we will get another action to deal with. But again, right now there's nothing to explore here anyway. And then last but not least, we are drawing the last disc. It's the blue disc for Little John accordingly. So yeah, let's see about him. The gallows are getting closer and closer. Another player is now reading something to the player of Little John, and that's on page 11. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen. You are not the only one the sheriff has captured in the last few weeks. More than usual, he's been pushing the pursuit of day thieves and prowlers. It seems something bigger is afoot. Since then, the people of Nottingham have lived in constant fear, with little hope for better days ahead. Okay, and now we are being told to deal with our kind of losing condition here. So we are using this little bard token here, and we are placing this bard token on space 18 here on the hope track. Rest assured, in more advanced scenarios, or basically more advanced chapters, we are not going to start on 18. That's all I'm going to say in this case. And yeah, this bard will move back and forth, typically moving towards the 0, which is bad news for us. There are some ways to move it further to the right, but I think we will see that sooner or later anyway. While all this is going through your mind, you continue to try to free yourself from your bonds, but you still can't move. And now we are being told that because we are currently captured by a guard, we cannot move, which also automatically means we are not going to use our long movement figure here. And this also automatically means we are also allowed to place one white cube into the bag. So we have optimized our chances here accordingly. And then we are being told, okay, now let's place this guy. And that's this symbol here. It's also printed somewhere on the game board here, which means if you're not using this, place one white cube into the bag. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the end of round 1 in this case, and we know what happens next. We are being told if there is no more disc in the bag, the first round ends, and we are moving on to page 12. On page 12, there is no real narrative to follow. It only tells you, congratulations, you have mastered the very first round. We are now placing all of those discs back into the bag. Nice thing. Now we are being told that instead of just moving, we can also now explore, or we can attack another one. So this is what we are going to do. First thing, we are going to move. We can also stop, so we don't need to move at all. If we are not moving, again, we will place one of our white cubes into the bag. And then we are also being told, hey, as of the next round, we are going to explore some of the other or at least one other action that we are going to take, and that's the explore action. And also we're being told we can only explore tiles that have a question mark on them, or if we are being told, but typically it's really something which has a question mark on it. And then we are being told, okay, let's continue reading on page 13, which is right next to us here. And then we are doing the same thing again. We are drawing our next disc, so let's simply do that. And I think let's do this second round too, and then I might stop for today just to show you something. Okay, we have Robin Hood again. Suddenly you feel a piercing gaze. As you look around, you discover a figure bent over and seemingly very old. On her head, the figure wears an ornament of feathers and animal skulls. She beckons you to her. Okay, we basically are being told in this round, or in this, not round, but in this turn actually, we have to move to this figure here, which is space 19, and then we are pretty much going to read what's going to happen on page 90. And I really hope I haven't messed things up again. Yeah, we should be good. So we are moving here, we are moving there. That's not quite enough. And in theory, what we can do is actually we can really try to make it. And if we're really playing it very clever, we could do it here, but we are not saving any power anyway because we are already using this. So I guess we might as well use our next movement here. And of course we don't have to move the full distance. We only have to barely touch this tile here. So I think in this case, yeah, let's do it in the middle, because I really don't know where I would be moving next in this case. So I would keep the second figure here more or less, yeah, in the middle of this clearing. If something nasty happens here, it will happen anyway, because there is no way we will be moving into the shadows with the same action. So in this case, that's what we have to deal with. And then we are moving to page 90. Here we have a nice little flowchart. We are checking, okay, which chapter are we currently playing? We are playing the Escape, which means we are continuing to read here on page 91. The figure greets you with a rough, weak voice. Robin of Locksley, long have you been away, but now at last you are back. Not a day too soon, for all England is in danger. What is the meaning of this, you ask? A storm is coming, and it begins here in Nottingham. The figure retreats into the undergrowth. I will tell you more when we meet again. But you must be careful, young Robin. As soon as the sheriff finds out you're here, he'll hunt you down. He already has your old friend Little John in his power. Hurry, then you may still be able to save him. Then we are being told to flip over this tile, which means we can no longer interact with the space. Yeah, it's not really tabletop-y to move figures around like this, and we're not playing snooker here, but I think that's good enough. And then we are also being explained how those clearings work, how we get captured, for example, and maybe I'll give you some little example here. So this area here is a clearing, and it's in bright sunlight, as I said. Let's say a guardian appears here, whatever, triggered by something, and the red disc is being drawn out of the back. In this case, this guard would then pretty much capture any outlaw or any hero character that's in the same clearing. This is another clearing, so a guard here would not be able to capture Robin. If this guard would be here, and then with a later draw from this back here, next disc would be a red one, then Robin would have been captured. We are moving Robin over to the guard, and then he would no longer be able to move. Let's say Robin moves into this space with a revealed guard. Nothing would happen immediately. Only when the red disc is being drawn, those guards will then try to act. Of course, if we are moving in and then we are drawing the red disc right out of the back, then yes, we are definitely in great danger. And rest assured, this will happen sooner or later, maybe even in this playthrough here. But that's pretty much how those clearing works. Again, that's one clearing. Then we have here some clearings overall. This is another clearing. And those clearings are typically being separated by shadow areas. Again, shadow areas really protect us from guards to capture us. But we really have to be in the shadow area with a full. So let's say with this figure here, we are like this, for example. Let's say we didn't make it any further because we didn't have any movement left. We are not fully here in the shadow, which means this guard would still be able to capture us. Okie dokie, let's draw the next disc. Everything can happen, and boom, what did I tell you? Of course, it will happen. The red disc. From a distance, the sheriff hears fanfares blaring and smiles involuntarily. He alone knows whose arrival they announce. Okay, now we are being told that hope will decrease by 2, which again means this part will move 2 spaces here to the left. Then we are also being told that the oval tile number 7 will be flipped, which means another guard is about to show up, which is this guy over here, and he's really controlling a relatively large clearing here. That's really a center, but of course he's guarding the castle walls here, the gate here, so I think it really totally makes sense that he really sees a lot around what's going on here. And then last but not least, we are putting one more purple cube into the back here accordingly. And then the next player is going to draw, any player is drawing the next disc from the back. And then again, if there are no more discs in the back, we will then continue reading on page 16. And again, only good stuff can happen now at this point in time. So let's see. And wow, it's Little John. And this is going to be a rather short text here. You're trying to attack the guard. Another player of Little John now reads page 14. There's no real narrative on page 14. But we are being told how to deal with an attack, actually. So they're telling us, okay, right now the turn of Pretty Little John would look like this. We would move. We cannot move because he's still captured. We can save our strength. Yes, we can do so. So we are putting one extra white cube into the back here. And then we are going to take one of the two actions. And the second action is to attack or overcome in this case. And that's relatively simple. Again, we want to deal with the guard who holds John Little here accordingly. In order to do so, or in order to attack any of those guard figures, we have to touch this tile here. Obviously we do, because we are lying right on top of this. Then we are going to draw up to 3 cubes from the back, and we will stop immediately at the point where we are drawing a white one. And that has basically only the reason that everything that we are pulling out of the back will get removed from this. So let's say the first cube is already the white one, then we are not going to remove a purple one. So ideally we are drawing out 2 purple and then a white, for example, because again, all those cubes are getting removed. But let's see about that. So that's the first purple cube. I take that. That's cool. Again, we are drawing up to 3 of those, but we're drawing one after another. Okay, that's the white cube. We are stopping right here. All of those cubes go back to the general supply. So we have somehow changed the contents of this back here, but it's still the same probability because we removed a white one and we removed a purple one. But because we have drawn a white cube, the attack is successfully, the attack is successful in this case. So we completely stop drawing any more things, and then we would continue reading if we have successfully attacked the guard, which we have. So let's see what happens now. First of all, we are going to flip over this guard here, but we are also getting the reward, and we can really have a peek under those guards. So we are totally allowed to check what the rewards would be. For the guards, I believe they're all the same. For the merchants, not so much, but they're also not changing. So sooner or later, you know where everything is on the board. In this case, we can increase our hope by 1, which means we are moving the bard 1 space to the right. In this very first mission chapter here, that's really not that big of a deal. You typically are not running out of time. Okay, we have dealt with our reward, so we will flip it again, face down the guard here. We will stand up. I think I still have to touch it somehow, so I will play it fair. And we'll put it like this. And we are also putting one of those time tokens on top of the guards. Right now in this first chapter, also not really that big of a deal. In a later scenario, that's really making could make a difference if you're winning or losing the scenario. Because this guard will not show up directly with the next, let's call it, activation. And in the later scenarios, there are really some cool randomization features in place that will not tell you which guards are being attacked in which order, which is something I quite like. That's kind of similar to Under, where you know the core underlying story, but there's still some randomness, which typically makes you enjoy replaying some of the scenarios or the complete campaign, for example. But that's already the end of Little John's activation. Keep in mind, movement happens before we are acting, so we are not allowed to move now. We have more or less forfeited our movement, but we were at least able to get one extra white cube into the back, and then we know only Maid Marian is left, and her mission was to approach that young lady there. I don't know if it's a lady. Relatively certain it's not a lady. She's moving in the forest. No, that's not a lady. But I think we should be able to reach that lady with a short movement here. I think that may not be enough, but I think we can take another short movement here. Right now I'm not 100% certain where I should place her, or where I should move later on. Of course, I know the scenario in this case. It's really a very simple one. But in this case, let's set her directly on top of that space. I think we have to touch. Of course, we cannot move the persons here. What am I talking about? Unless we are being captured. I think then let's do it like this. We know that's okay. We are allowed to place another white cube into the back. That can become relatively important in later scenarios too. And then, yeah, we are exploring page number 130. And that's the same thing like with tile number 90, which Robin Hood explored. So we have Rowena the maid. We are currently in the escape, which means we are continuing to read on page 131. I know you, the maid calls out to you. You are Lady Marian. You ask about the rumors about your father. I'm afraid you heard right. Father Egbert himself heard his confession. I'm sorry for you, but heresy is a terrible evil. I fear you too will be suspected. Okay, then we are basically asking ourselves, what's going to happen? Is he really a devil worshipper? No, 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 that can't be. And now we have to basically talk to Father Egbert here. That's our mission for Maid Marian. As fast as possible, we have to move to Father Egbert, which is tile number 150 in the village, which is pretty much all the way here to the right. Really, 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 really quite a distance to go there. And again, right now that clock is not ticking, but that's about to change relatively soon. Let me show you to that too. It's really a long walk. And of course, we have this guard here, for example. So for Maid Marian, it's very, very dangerous now to move through in front of the castle. Because if this guy would activate while Maid Marian here, she would move here. And then she would lose all her movement. We would lose some white cubes and whatnot. So overall, really, really a very dangerous journey for her. But we also know that this was the last disc from the back. So another round would start. And the book already told us when this was the last round, we would continue reading. I believe was it page 14 or 16? I cannot quite remember. But for today, I will stop here. I think I showed you enough of the core mechanics. Really, there is a lot more to explore later on. So, and I will not tell you what they are. But yeah, there are other weapons. There are other kind of figures, or let's say opponents, that will show up as part of this campaign. Again, a lot of randomization, a lot of narrative will unfold, especially during the next campaign or next chapter of this campaign and whatnot. But again, I will let you decide if you want me to continue this very first chapter here. There are still some surprises to come. I still have to deal with John Little, for example. He still has to make sure to do something. I believe we have not yet learned how we are going to win this scenario, actually, which is also the reason why I think I should stop here. But again, I will let you decide if you want me to continue this very first chapter here. Honestly, I think the spoilers in this very first scenario are really minimal. So really not a lot of the story will unfold here. Yeah, you will see some of the mechanics unfold, and it's really a tutorial mission right now, but I think spoiler wise this is really relatively safe for you. This scenario really is so easy that you easily should be able to deal with, unless you're really moving completely planlessly around the board and will try to explore as many things as possible, for example. And there are really a lot of nice little things to explore beside the whatever normal story here, for example, so you can get some extra bonuses, find some useful items and whatnot. But again, I will leave it up to you. You have seen at least some of the core mechanics, how you move, how we are dealing with the tasks, especially how we are attacking a guard, for example, something like that. We have not been attacked by a guard yet, so but we already have seen that too, because again, Little John started with this task, so I think you should have at least somewhat of an idea how this game actually plays. Some final thoughts about this game. I really should repeat that I got this as a review copy from Kosmos, so really thank you so much. So take everything I say with a pinch of salt. I'm not a huge fan of spoilery kind of campaign games. For whatever reason, I enjoyed Andor a big deal, and I still do. So I still play it every now and then, even with stuff I already know, but that's because I'm getting old and keep forgetting stuff, what was going to happen, so no real spoilers for me. But this game is also very similar to Andor. I really like it a lot. The family likes it a lot. It unfolds in a nice pace. All the sessions don't take really long. It's maybe 60 minutes max, and then you typically know if you win or lose. I think you can also deal with the difficulty level later on. So if you want a more easy experience, you can add some extra discs, for example, which give you more actions and stuff like that. And there are some things how you can tweak with the difficulty. At least you can make it easier. At least that's how I understand it right now. Maybe during later scenarios, there are also ways to make it more difficult. I don't know. I do know there are some more challenging rules on the Kosmos website for the Adventures of Robin Hood. Right now, everything is in German. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind there is the solo mode that's already out there, or solo challenge, I would call it, and they already have announced another story, which you then can play. I think maybe it should be out already. I haven't checked now the website, but it was somewhat towards the end of March that this is going to be released. I really do like the gameplay. It's very refreshing not to roll any dice and not to move around spaces, but really use this tabletop kind of experience. This works perfectly well for me. I have some issues with these little tokens or tiles that you're going to flip out, because that's really something, sooner or later they will really look like hell. Because yeah, you have to draw them out, you will always somehow damage those, so sooner or later this will wear down. Not sure if it's really that big of a deal, but something, yeah, I understand why they did this, and it perfectly works well within the boundaries of the scenario. Maybe Kosmos is offering you a replacement board at some point in time or so, I don't know. But yeah, overall really a very enjoyable game. And yeah, that's pretty much how you play the adventures of Robin Hood. I really hope you enjoyed it so far, and again, apologies for some of the spoilers, but again, I warned you at the beginning of this video not to watch it if you are not a big fan of spoilers. I personally don't really care too much about spoilers, honestly, but that's because I'm, again, not that big of a fan of big campaign-based games after all. But again, every now and then I make an exception, and Robin Hood and also Andor and whatever. I played Gloomhaven, but also Gloomhaven, the spoilers were, what the heck, don't really care about those. There was nothing really worth spoiling actually from a story perspective. But that's only me, and I totally understand if you don't want to see, if you really want to experience the story on your own, that's perfectly understandable. A huge shout out to all of my patrons. Really appreciate all your support. If you want to join my patrons, then definitely you will find a link to my page on Patreon. Or you can join me here on YouTube by joining my community. There's this little join button. Like and subscribe, everything helps. And yeah, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And until then, bye bye.